Quiet victory without celebration. The first time my mother told someone I was unstable. I was 11 and had just won a regional debate competition. "She's very sensitive," she'd said to the other mothers, smiling in a way that looked generous. "We're hoping she'll grow out of it." It became a pattern. Every accomplishment came with a footnote. Every step forward required correction. I learned early that in her version of events, I was always almost competent, almost steady, almost enough. So when I received notice that she had requested to testify at my professional conduct review, I wasn't surprised. I was tired. The hearing room was colder than I expected. Marble floors, long wooden bench, flags positioned carefully behind the panel. It wasn't a courtroom trial, it was an internal review, routine, procedural. Anonymous complaints had questioned my temperament. It happens to judges, especially younger ones, especially women. I sat at the counsel table, hands folded. 6 years on the bench had trained me well. Posture neutral, face composed, breath steady. My mother arrived in a pale blue suit she reserved for important occasions. She hugged no one. She didn't look at me. She looked at the panel as if she had been waiting her whole life to be useful to them. When she was sworn in, her voice carried easily. "She struggles with consistency," she began. "She's never been able to hold a job for long." A pause. Soft but deliberate. "She can barely hold a job." There it was. Not shouted. Not emotional. Just delivered like a diagnosis. I kept my gaze forward. The Chief Justice sat at the center of the panel, hands folded loosely. He did not interrupt. He did not react. My mother continued. "She's always been intense, defensive. If you question her, she takes it personally. I worry about her making objective decisions." Each sentence was crafted carefully. Nothing overtly cruel. Just enough to plant doubt. Just enough to sound concerned. A part of me, the younger version, wanted to turn toward her and ask why. Why every achievement had to be trimmed down to size. Why competence frightened her. But I had learned something in law school that I hadn't learned at home. Silence can be power when it's chosen. The panel thanked her. There was a brief shuffle of papers. A clerk leaned toward the Chief Justice and handed him a thin folder. He opened it slowly, and then something shifted. He stood. It wasn't dramatic. No gavel. No raised voice. But when the Chief Justice stands in a hearing room, everyone feels it. "I'd like to clarify the record," he said evenly. The air changed. Even my mother straightened slightly. He adjusted his glasses. "Judge Rahman has served on the district bench for 6 years. The word judge hung there. She has authored over 400 rulings. 0 reversals for misconduct. 2 published appellate affirmations. Her retention evaluations have consistently ranked in the top percentile for judicial temperament." He looked directly at the panel as he continued, not at my mother. "Employment history indicates no gaps in service since her clerkship 12 years ago." Quiet pause. "There appears to be no factual basis for the assertion that she cannot maintain employment." The words were not sharp. They were not angry. They were final. I did not look at my mother immediately. I felt it before I saw it. The stillness beside me, the way the air seemed to thin. When I finally allowed myself to glance sideways, her face had drained of color. Not because she'd been scolded. No one had scolded her. But because her authority over the narrative had evaporated in a single public clarification. For the first time in my life, her version of me had been measured against documented reality, and found insufficient. The Chief Justice sat back down. "We will proceed," he said. And that was it. No reprimand. No humiliation. No lecture. Just record over rumor. The remainder of the hearing felt procedural. Questions about case management, courtroom scheduling, routine matters. I answered calmly, clearly, the way I always do. When it ended, the panel dismissed us with formal nods. Outside the chamber, the hallway buzzed quietly with clerks and attorneys. My mother stood near the window, clutching her handbag too tightly. "You could have told me," she said finally, voice low. "Told you what?" "That they'd defend you like that." I considered the question. They didn't defend me, I replied. They read my record. She looked at me as if I'd spoken in another language. For years, she had corrected my story before I could finish it. Today, she hadn't been able to. I was only trying to be honest, she added. I know, I said, and I meant it. In her mind, she had been honest. She had always believed I was fragile, temporary, almost qualified for the life I built. But belief does not override evidence. We stood there for a moment that felt unfamiliar. Not reconciled, not repaired, just rearranged. I have to get back to Chambers, I said. She nodded. No apology came. I didn't expect one. As I walked back toward my office, the weight I'd carried since childhood felt redistributed. Not gone, just no longer pressing on my spine. Reclaiming self-worth isn't loud. It doesn't clap for itself. It doesn't erase history. It simply changes who gets to define it. In the quiet of my chambers, I removed my robe and hung it carefully. The fabric settled into place, structured and steady. I had held my job for 6 years, and I would return to the bench tomorrow, not to prove anything, just to continue.